Hello everyone and welcome back to the 2018 Granny Square crochet along. Today we are on number 82. Number 82 is the pinwheel square, which I have here. Now excuse all my ends, I've done it but I've got all my ends to sew in still. This is our pinwheel square, so we've got this pinwheel going on here. It might look quite complicated, but it's not actually as complicated as you would imagine. It just takes a bit of time to do. So we're going to go through it step by step, and just take your time, grab a cup of tea and relax, and let's make this pinwheel square. In the pattern, which you can find the link to the Facebook group in the description below, you will find the pattern there. And in the pattern it suggests 3 colours, so we've got A, B and C going on for our colours. You could do it all in one colour if you like. This just kind of highlights the edges, you can see where it all is going on. Yeah, 3 colours. The only other thing that I've added different to the pattern is to use some stitch markers. You don't have to use those, but when we start making these kind of petally points, I have suggested using a stitch marker in to mark your stitch there. So you would need 8 stitch markers or pieces of yarn. I will admit I do forget to tell you in the video. I'm actually recording this the beginning at the end. This is after. I do forget to tell you always about using your stitch markers, but if you find them useful, then go ahead, do that on each round. When we start doing these petals, do feel free to use your stitch markers to mark that point if you wish. The only other thing to say before we get going is that if you need to slow the video down, there is quite a lot to be doing, then in the top right or below there should be a function that you can slow the video right down. And don't forget, pause, rewind, repeat, catch up, and just take your time, and you should end up with something like this. Okay, grab your stuff guys, and let's get hooking. Okay, so let's get started on round 1. And for round 1 you need to chain 5 and join with a slip stitch in your first chain to make your ring. Yes, this is a bit bigger than we normally would make. We normally use 4 chains. This is designed to have a bit of a centre hole for this pinwheel. So you are going to do a chain 1, and that will not count as your first stitch. That just gets us started. And then we're going to make 16 single crochets into this ring. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make 16 single crochets into this ring, and then I will get back to you when I have finished. Okay, I have 16 single crochets in my ring. I've just counted them, and then we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. Now don't go into your chain, and I would recommend that you count your stitches around before you do your slip stitch, because we are going to need to have the right stitch count. I have told you in a previous video of how you can sometimes adjust your stitches if you've made a mistake, but stitch count is really quite important on this particular design. So count your stitches back. Remember, your first loop will be your chain, and do your slip stitch into this first single crochet that you have there. So there we go, 16 single crochets in that round. And now you want to fasten off this colour. If you're changing colour, fasten off this colour and then join your new colour into any of your stitches. Okay, and I'll see you back when I've joined my new colour. Okay, so I have my new colour. I have this pink for round 2, and you're going to chain 1. Again, this doesn't count as a stitch, and then you are going to do a single crochet into this same stitch. So single crochet into the same stitch. Now, because this is where I've joined, I'm not going to go into this slip stitch here because my yarn behind isn't so secure, so I'm going to count it as this next stitch to go into and go over my tails. Okay, and it will all come right at the end, don't worry about that at all. Okay, so a single crochet into that stitch, and then you are going to chain 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now this again is important to count and have these even because these are kind of the foundation of our pinwheel shapes. So you want to chain 11, and then you're going to skip a single crochet. So skip one of these stitches and do a single crochet in the next. So 2 stitches along, you're going to do a single crochet. Okay, and then you're going to do another 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 chains, and again you are going to skip the next stitch and do a single crochet into the next stitch, and you're going to repeat this all the way around until you have 8 of these kind of triangular loops. Okay, so you need to do another chain 11, skip a stitch and do a single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back here to fasten off. Okay, so I have my 8 triangular shapes here now, made with those 11 chains, and we need to skip this next stitch that we have here and go in where we have our first single crochet and chain, and just do our slip stitch in there. Okay, and that is our round 2 completed. You should have 8 of these triangular loopy spaces. They're going to look a bit weird and a bit loopy and floppy at the moment, but we will be making them a little bit sturdier in round 3. Let me just grab my pattern up a bit further to round 3. So we are on to round 3, and we are going to chain 1 and do a single crochet in that same spot, just as we often do. Excuse me. And now we are going to work into our chains here. Okay, now if you're not sure which is the first chain, just count back from your single crochet here. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, because this one here will sometimes look like it's your single crochet, but that will be your first chain. So into your first chain, you want to do a single crochet. We're doing all single crochets in this round, okay? So 1 into that one, and you want to do another 4 single crochets along. So that's 1, and then find your next chain. They might have twisted a little bit, but just find that next chain and do a single crochet into there. That's 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so that's 5 single crochets, and now into the next chain you want to do 3 single crochets into the same chain. Okay, so this is your middle chain of the 11. So you want to do 1, 2 and 3, and this is what's going to be eventually the point of like your pinwheel. So just to remember this, because you're going to have this as your point, and I like to make things easier for myself. If I'm going to be coming back to a spot, I like to make it easier. So in your middle one of these 3, so your second one along from the hook, just pop a stitch marker in there, or a piece of yarn or whatever. You don't have to, but I just like to make things easier for myself, and do that. And then you're going to do another 5 single crochets in the next 5 chains. So 1, 2, 3. Some of these chains might be a bit tight, but just work your way along. So that's 3, 4 and 5. The last one might be a bit small. Let's do the last one in there. So 5, and then in your single crochet that you have at the bottom where you joined, you're going to do a single crochet. So that's this next bit here. Do your single crochet. If you're not quite sure, just check both sides and do your single crochet into there. So that's made that a lot sturdier now, not as floppy, and we're going to repeat that on every petal, as I'm calling them, petals, pins. So you're going to do 5 single crochets along. So 1, 2, 3. Can be a bit fiddly working into chains, but once we've done this, we'll be flying. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then 3 into the next one. 1, 2 and 3. Pop your stitch marker in that second one. Let's pop your stitch marker in that second one there, and then another 5 going back down. So grab my yarn. I'm going to do another 5 going back down to the bottom. 1, 2, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4. I told you it's fiddly. 4, and the last one, I need to wiggle it through. 5, and then a single crochet into the top of your single crochet. Make sure you're going into your single crochet and not your chain. Okay, there you go. So this bit here, which you can see just here, that is your first chain coming away from your single crochet. That's your first chain there for your next petal. So work your way round, making 5 single crochets in 5 chains, 3 in the top one, and then another 5 down and a single crochet. 5, 3, 5 single crochet. Work your way around, and I will meet you back near the beginning. These are all going to start to overlap, but don't worry, I will meet you back around this this beginning to fasten off together. Okay, so I have fastened off. sorry, I said I would do that on camera. I forgot that part. But just fasten off, do a slip stitch into your first single crochet that you had, and then fasten that off as you normally would with your slip stitch, and then go back into that same space or into any of your single crochet spaces, single crochet stitches between these petals. Go into that. Now, it's not always easy to tell which one you're meant to be going into, so what I suggest is, if you've got your stitch marker, or you can identify your middle stitch, is you count 6 stitches back. So not this one, but then 6. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you want to be putting your new colour, which is back to your beginning colour. You want to join that in that 7th one. So not this one, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7th. Okay, join that new colour in there, do a chain 1 as usual, and your chain 1, and then a single crochet in that same spot. I'm just going to go over my ends just to secure those in slightly. Okay, so now this is what we did along our petals. I'm still calling them petals, even though it's not particularly a flower. What we are going to do is work in the back loop only, 6 single crochets. So if you see your stitch, you have got, let me try and move this out of the way, you've got 2 bars there. Can you see those 2 bars? Is my camera focusing? You've got 2 bars, one at the front, which is this one here, oops, the one at the front, which is this one here, and then you've got the one behind, which is the back loop. Okay, so all the way along, got caught on a strand there, all the way along in each stitch you've got a front loop and a back loop. Okay, and what you're going to do is go into the back loop. So the one furthest away, you're going to go over this top bar and into that bar behind, and we're doing single crochets. You're going to do 6 single crochets in that back loop. So again, going not the front one but the back one into there. We did a square a few days ago, if you did that square, and I think it was all back loops, the whole square, so you should be quite familiar with that now if you've been following us along. So you're going to do 6 of these, and this is where our stitch marker is handy, that you're doing a single crochet in the back loop only, all the way up, but not including the stitch marker one. Take your stitch marker out, and then in that stitch you're going to do 3 single crochets, all in the back loop. So 1, 2 and 3. Okay, and now you are going to do 6 single crochets all the way back down. So it's you're just doing symmetrical each side of these like petal triangular shapes, keeping it even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So 6 up one side, 3 in the middle and 6 back down, and then in the single crochet that we have down here in the middle, you're going to go through both loops and do a single crochet. Okay, so up and down are all back loop only. You can see this like bar leaving from the front chain, front loop that we left behind. Okay, again, these are all going to start bunching up and overlapping, but don't worry about that, it's absolutely fine. That's what they're going to do. So in the next petal then, you're going to do the same thing, start on the back loop of the first one and go up and do 6 single crochets all the way up here, and so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Alright, 6. My yarn is separating. 6, take your stitch marker out and do 3 single crochets in the back loop of that top stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and then 6 single crochets back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then in the next stitch, which is your single crochet, you're going to go under both bars, okay, both loops, and that's your second petal triangle done. It is looking a bit more triangular now, isn't it? So you're going to follow that all the way around. 6 single crochets in the back loop only, 3 single crochets in this top stitch and in the back loop still, and 6 single crochets in the back loop coming back down, and 1 single crochet under both loops in your middle single crochet down here. And do that all the way around, and I will meet you back here where we were doing a slip stitch into the top of the single crochet just here. Okay, so I am at the end of round 4, and as you can see, it's all a bit bunched up. As I said, don't worry about that, it's all going to come right in the end. So just go into the top of your first single crochet and do a slip stitch into there. We are going to be using the same colour for the next round, so you might want to, there's been a lot of probably like tightish stitches. I know my hands are a bit getting a bit stiff now, so just give your hands a bit of a movement for the next moment or so, and get ready for round 5. So for round 5 we are basically repeating what we did in round 4, in that we are just making this a wider band of our first colour, of this colour. What I should have told you, if you're using the stitch markers, so if you're watching this video through before making your own pinwheel square, then on this round that we've just done, you could have done exactly the same as we did on the previous round. And when you did your 3 single crochets in the top, in the point, you could have marked your middle stitch with the stitch marker, so that when we work up this side, you won't have to count quite so much, or you'll be able to work backwards from your stitch marker. If you're following me along already with your crocheting, then I apologise for not mentioning that, but it's just a little thing that I like to do anyway. It's not actually in the pattern to say to mark it, it's just a thing I like to do myself, so I'm sure it will all go fine without it. I just have to count more carefully, which I'm sure I can manage. Counting to 7 this time, so I think I can manage 7. So as always, we are going to chain 1 and do a single crochet into that same space. There we go. And we are going to do back loop only again, going up our petal, and we're going to do 7 single crochets in that back loop. So 7 single crochets in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And now we should be at the point of our petal. So we should be in the second stitch in the top here, or in your stitch marker if you pause the video and are watching it back with your stitch marker in place. So in this top one, as we did before, you're going to do 3 single crochets in this top point, and this is the equivalent of when we make corners, when we've actually got the square and we need to take it around. So we need to take it around, this is pretty much like a corner, so we need to take it around there. So 3 single crochets in there, and then 6 single crochets coming back down the sides. So 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 single crochets coming along there in the back loop, and as before, this single crochet in the middle between our petals. You're going under both loops. Okay, so you're doing 7, then 3 in one stitch. So 7, 3, 7 and 1 in both loops. So work this around all of these 8 petals, and I will meet you back round at the beginning. Okay, so when you've gone all the way around, you want to find your first single crochet. So knot your chain, your first single crochet, and do a slip stitch and fasten off that colour. If you are following the colour changes, that is, fasten that off and get ready for round 6. Get your colour. What colour are we going on to now? We are going on to a new colour. So get your third colour ready and we will move on to round 6.